Freya is here. I've gotten to probably play around 2 or 3 hours of her. I've gotten a bit of a good feel for her, and of course I've played against her a lot. Now, I want to start this video talking about, the good, the bad, the not so good, but really, where I'm going to really start is something that I found when I was playing Freya, and I don't know if this is a Freya issue or if this is something with this build. There is a strange headshot bug with Freya. I have not seen anyone talk about this yet. I want you to look at these clips I'm going to show you right now. Look at this Ashe shooting me, okay? She gets a headshot when she, shoots my toes. I don't understand how she was able to get this. I don't quite understand. Was there a perk? Was there something weird? I have another one for you here. This is Kiri. I think this one's a little more reasonable, just the way that Freya's her box shifts, but I think there might be something going on with when Freya uses certain abilities where something about her head or critical hurt box is extending in ways that aren't proper. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I don't have the code, but I wanted to point this out at the beginning of the video because I think this is the craziest thing, and that's why they do these trials, is to catch this stuff. But I'm putting it out there. Please show this to other people so that this can get fixed. Something is not right here. Something is messing up. I'm not sure. I'll probably link that code down below so you guys can see it. I don't know if it'll get wiped, but whatever. That out of the way, let's talk about the good, okay? So, Freya is very fun. I feel like a broken record. Yeah, this is the 4th time in a row where I'm like, this character's super fun. Obviously, they're new. They're interesting. Freya is moving all the time. There's the question about mobility creep. People keep talking about it. I'm gonna make a video on it because I frankly don't want to hear about it anymore. Wait for that one. But yes, it's very fun. The reason why I really like Freya, and I think her movement is super interesting, although it is, pretty basic, it's just dashes up and sideways, it's because it's tied to her damage. Using a dash for movement is nerfing your DPS, and I think that is really crucial. You have to make a lot of decisions about do I want to kind of dump all of my take aims and my what are they called, quick step or whatever, and get a good kill, or try to get a good kill, good pressure, and then leave my survivability on the board. Maybe I can actually play on the ground, and then dash, and then my escape option is updrafting and going on a high ground, and that's how I escape. I think there's a lot that you have to think about with this character. Maybe you just jump up and go for one pot shot and then immediately come down, and people think you're gonna kind of strafe in the air. It's really, really interesting. There's a lot of tricky stuff that you can do, but since Freya has to completely halt her momentum in the air to aim down sights, she's really going to be trying to quick scope a lot. And I think this is where a lot of the, the skill ceiling comes in. Because you have to, if you want to be the least exposed and get the most value, you have to be doing these quick scope, really fast shots. You have to be really good with your mechanics. Otherwise, you have to sit there longer. I mean, it's the opposite of a sniper, right? Snipers and typically aim in Overwatch is hey, calm down, take literally a half second more to aim up your shot, and then you'll hit way more. But with Freya, that half second more is putting you in a bad position, especially, if you're in the air. So it's kind of strange. It's a really interesting dynamic for the sniper character to really want to be quick scoping you and want to not be, as accurate all the time to make sure that she's not getting herself killed. I think that's also part of why you can miss a shot and still do a little bit of burst damage to the ground. You get a little bit of value if you miss. It's not much. It's not going to matter all that often. But I think that is a really interesting, basically when Freya wants to be moving and not, and in the air and not, is a lot more tough to kind of put to grasp than I think we're giving her a lot of credit for. Now, obviously with a character like this, there could be just some crazy stuff where Freya, good Freyas are just killing everything immediately. There's no need to use her movement. She just kind of sneaks up on somebody and it's double shot dead. We'll have to see, but right now I don't think that's going to be the case because, in my opinion, Freya doesn't have a lot of BS. Now, obviously, the sticking people, burst damage, whatever, that's going to be part of it. But the reason I say that is that she doesn't have a lot of utility in her regular kit, right? There's nothing that really stops people. It's literally just burst, damage, and movement, right? That is it. If Freya sticks you, you aren't taking the full 170 or something the damage is, but you're not taking that full damage all at one time. You have like one burst, another burst, and you have some way to like, react to that. Now, I will say, we'll talk about it later with like the potential synergies and everything. Supports, you should, if there's a Freya on the other team, you need to be watching your team like a hawk. You need to be with them. You need to be ready to react to when they get shot, because Freya is going to try to get another shot in them and kill them, right? You have the power to react and hit any good burst, right? There's a couple of times, hopefully I'm showing you some clips, where I think I've killed somebody and I haven't, because their supports are like on the money, right? They're ready to go and they're healing through. It is real. It can happen. You should be looking for it. But basically, I think a lot of why she doesn't have a lot of BS is because her projectile keeps her in check, right? They've kind of like said, I don't remember where they said this, but they said she was like somewhere between like medium to long range. I gotta be so honest with you guys. I think she really is more medium range. I think her projectile is just not accurate enough at those longer ranges and doesn't have the lethality like a Hanzo or something for it to actually be like worthwhile, because she has to hit 2, right? And on certain characters, she might have to hit even more. I actually do think that her effective range is more medium, and you want to be like flanking around and you don't want to just sit in the back. I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of Freyas, is they're not using their movement. This is a movement character, this isn't Farah who just can sit back and like hit splash damage and not have to, you have to aim, you have to know what you're doing, and you can't just like spam down chokes, right? You have limitations to that. If you do try to spam, you'll see a couple times I've tried to just kind of like put some suppressing fire. Doesn't really work very much, and then that gives that the enemy team knows I have no resources, so they can walk up a lot more. So I think you really do have to be looking to hunt people, and you have to get aggressive, and you have to be on a flank. Playing in the backline, I just don't feel like is going to cut it. Keep that in mind as you play this character. I think, to end off the good section, no one-shot. Not even on a tracer. She literally can't one-shot anything by herself, obviously. Damage boost is a different story, but she can't one-shot, and that's great. It's a sniper, one that's designed to, even with her burst, right? I'm saying like shot and burst, that doesn't even kill a tracer with a headshot. But yeah, it feels like she is designed as like the new era sniper, right? The one that like you do have that potential for the burst damage, especially if you're able to shoot them 2 or 3 times in a row. They're probably not going to live from that, but that requires you to use all of your resources and hit 3 really good shots, right? I think, and again, I'm a Sojourn defender. It's the same thing with Soj. In theory, that you have to build up the rail. You don't just have it all the time, right? There's an extra step. There's a condition to the one shot. The reason why Widow and sometimes Hanzo feel so BS is that the condition is just they have to like charge it, but charging it is easy and will always happen. Whereas these characters have a time, like an extra step in order to get the one shot. More mechanical skill on top of it, more extra time to build up a rail, something like that. That is how the sniper should work. Everything that does the hyper burst damage should be conditional. And in the case of Freya, she can't one shot at all. Soj can't either, technically, although she can in her ult, but Freya literally can't at all. You always have to do something else. It's good. I think it's good design. I think there's a lot more that you can do to play against a Freya, play around Freya's kit that isn't just completely avoid her sightlines. It's much more interactive. I had plenty of games today where they had a Freya and a Widow, and I hated those games because of the Widow. That's just it, right? If I saw the Freya, I wasn't as afraid, but if I saw the Widow, I literally couldn't do anything. That is what I think is good about her. I've really liked it so far. Let's move on to what I think is kind of like, I don't really know, right? So the things that I find are like, could go one way or the other. I don't really have a super strong opinion on. It's really her ult. I think her ult is the biggest thing that gives me a lot of like pause. I don't know if this is true. It feels like the fastest charging ult in the game, even more than Pulse Bomb, but it definitely is effectively the fastest charging in the game because of her passive. So we'll get to all of that, but let's talk about the ult, because they have a thing where, you know, if you hit somebody directly, it pulls people into that explosion radius, right? The thing about it is that if you don't, it still has like the slowing field and the explosion. But so far, it has felt worthless if you don't hit somebody, right? It feels like using it just for the slowing field is like absolutely troll. And I think they wanted it to be worthwhile because it is an ult you get so like fast. But the thing also is that since you get it so fast, it can't be super powerful. So I get why it isn't really that much, but it feels like I can't get any value out of it. Might just be growing pains, you know, it might just be because I'm new to the character. That is definitely possible, but I don't know. And then when you hit somebody with it, it's almost like a guaranteed kill, because you hit the bola, it pulls people in, and then you're like almost guaranteed to take aim after that, which is just going to kill them, because the bola, the bola puts them super duper low, and then you just have to hit them with a burst damage and the burst from the shot afterward. Like, they're going to die unless they get like life gripped or Suzu'd or something. Bola feels so like hit or miss, right? Like, it feels like it is one of the most broken ults in the game because it can just like guarantee you a kill like Pulse Bomb, right? That's kind of the idea. But then it also just feels like super, super worthless. The thing about Trace, like Pulse Bomb, is that Pulse Bomb is not supposed to have like another function. It's either you stick it or you don't, and like that's where it is, right? But when you give the ult something else to kind of do, and it doesn't do it like much at all, then what was the point, right? And that's where like I feel kind of conflicted about this, because I get it, but I don't know. I don't know if the current implementation is great. We gotta talk about her passive, because I really like the idea, but I think it might be absolutely broken, just not in ranked. So what I think you should be doing with a Freya on your team, and this is not a new like thought, right, is that you let her get all the kills. When you're staggering, you let the Freya get the kill. She only needs 3 to get 25% to her ult. So then she can build, and remember, her ult builds, you don't even need to get kills for her ult to build super duper fast, right? She's gonna be building ults so incredibly often. But when you're on ladder, people have not adjusted yet to having a Freya on their team, and they don't care. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many games where I'm trying to like, you know, finish the kill, and my team is just running them down, trying to kill them first. It's like, there's literally one person who cannot defend themselves. Guys, please let me get this so I can bola early, and then we can just kind of like free win the fight because I'm like flanking and I bola somebody. You know what I mean? They just don't understand that, right? So I think they balanced her passive for ranked, you know, for ladder, but only 3 kills is going to be crazy when you put it in the hands of a team that is playing for Freya to get like ult every fight, multiple times a fight even. So you gotta be really, really careful with this. The one thing that I don't like about how it's implemented, the passive, is that when you get 3 and you have your ult, it just saves it until you ult, and then it will auto inject it in there. I find that there's not an interesting ult management game if you just let them have it for free. I think that when you have 2, you should be forced to use your bola and then try to get a kill afterwards to get the ult charge. If you get the ult, or if you get all 3 final blows while you have your ult, it should just be wasted, in my opinion. I think that'd be a much better way to balance her. So you don't have like all the cards in this situation just always have ult all the time. I think that's a much more interesting loop rather than just the game giving it to you at all times, no questions asked. I think, I also think they might need to up the however many like kills it takes to get your extra ult charge. And what's crazy is that like, since Freya's like ult percentage is so low, you're technically not getting that much value out of, getting 25 ult charge compared to somebody like, 25 ult charge on Freya is probably like 10 ult charge on Sigma, right? That's what I mean. It technically isn't like that valuable overall, but just getting your ult that quickly, it's always going to be crazy. I actually think that maybe there's a world where final blows on, and of course this would kind of like backwards to Freya's, unique design. But if there were a world where final blows actually gave you an extra little bit of ult charge, then you would have a little more incentive to like try to get final blows. So that might make it more interesting. Overall, I don't know. Final blows have never mattered in Overwatch. Now it does. And I think we're going to take a really long time to like actually figure out the best way to do it and actually implement it, if people even care, which I think they really should. So it's an interesting experiment. I think we still kind of have to see how it goes. But I can definitely see a really stark difference between organized play and ladder play. Let's talk about her passives. Her passive list is okay. I actually like playing with all of them. I've tried them all out. I actually really like the tracking low health targets through walls, just by the way that Freya works. Because if you hit one shot on somebody and they blow up, that automatically puts them in that low range, so you can kind of like continue your pressure on them as they go. It makes like playing duels easier because you kind of have all the cards, and I think it's actually like a really fun idea for them. Also, like, you know, she can see them through walls, so she can be like, hey, you know, I've shot somebody through the wall, Genji, Tracer, go get them, right? I'm gonna ping them through the wall. That's your cue to go. I think that's really interesting. Again, we'll talk about some of those synergies later. The other minor perk is the one that slows if you hit a couple of shots consecutively. And you've probably already seen, like, I saw OC talking about it, but like, if you get that perk with the major perk that refunds, you know, your regular ammo if you hit a take aim, it's just the tank shredder. It just is like, it really is super boring. Like, I think that combination is what is going to be probably the most consistently powerful overall, especially like in this Mauga meta, or a meta with a tank that just has to take damage. It's going to be really annoying. I think it's really boring. I think a character that's a sniper, where you just kind of like build into just shooting the tank, is super backwards and of course not fun. Obviously we don't want the tank to just be like, you know, the punching bag. We want to interact with the other characters, and like encouraging that, in one way, sure, like maybe you have a little more pressure with the minor, but then like even the major feeding into that, so you have this like really vicious like cycle of a gameplay loop. I really don't agree. The other major perk is fun. I like that one. You know, you updraft and you get like an extra reset of the thing. I misunderstood it at first. I thought it just gave you take aim right away, so I was like really awkwardly trying to implement it. That was just on me. But, you know, that one is fun. You know, more movement is always good. Maybe a little too much movement, I don't know, but it is fun. I do really like that reveal the enemies through wall one. I think that actually works with her kit a lot, like really well. Honestly, that was probably a passive that they were you know, toying with for a little bit before they ended up on that like create the one that we have now. So yeah, those are the things that like could go either way kind of in time. We'll have to see how they're implemented. A lot of these probably won't be fixed until launch. So be on the lookout for those, I guess, as she gets closer to actually releasing. And then to be honest with you guys, I've only got like one thing that I thought like was bad, or one that I didn't really like. That was her primary fire. Her primary fire feels really underwhelming. It doesn't do like too much damage, but it's just so awkward to shoot. Like, it starts its spread. It doesn't start spreading immediately, but its spread angle is just weird. I don't like it at all. It feels like it goes completely off the rails after a couple of shots. And the speed of the darts is just like, or the arrows, it's too slow. I say too slow. Like, obviously I think there's a reason so you don't just spam people down, but like, it doesn't feel very good. I don't know how you fix this. It's the part of the kit that I don't really like, you know. If I do like a take aim and then start shooting from the left, like the left click, I'm just like, okay, when can I shoot my other ability again? I think it's like the one thing on this character that does not feel very good. Unfortunately, it's part of the core gameplay loop a lot of the time. So I don't know. It's going to be a little interesting trying to, you know, figure it out. Not figure it. What am I saying? It just doesn't feel good. That's it. That's all I have. I don't have anything extra to say about that. That's the bad. That's the stuff that I think is not great with Freya. Okay, last real segment here. I want to talk about kind of like synergies or characters or comps that I think that Freya might be good with. Now, in general, I find that Freya is probably going to be pretty versatile. So when you're thinking about, like, we'll start with tanks, right? When you're thinking about tanks, I think you have a lot that you can do, although it really counts more for her playstyle, right? Freya is not going to be an incredibly fast character. I don't think you want to be playing super fast with Freya. but she does have like potentially like a lot of burst. You know, she's really good at taking angles, and she can flank not like super deep like a Tracer or something, but she can flank a little more than like a Cassidy can, probably to the lengths of like a Sojourn. So I would say that a lot of comps that Sojourn is good with, probably Freya will be good with as well, except for like those very fast ones. So characters that I think that Freya would be like particularly good with, like a Diva comp, you know, she's like a slower dive style. You know, Diva doesn't want to play super duper fast. I think that's a good option. Doomfist can also play at that kind of speed. Something else that I didn't talk about yet, and we'll talk about really with the DPS, is that Freya wants people who can finish her kills, right? Well, it's weird, right? You want people that can finish her kills, but she also wants to get the final blow for her passive, so it's kind of like a strange dichotomy. But if you're trying to win the game, a lot of times you just need people dead. So the best thing that can happen is that Freya hits a really good shot, and they take a lot of damage, but, you know, they're going to have to go around a corner to take the rest of it. A character like a Hazard, who can get on somebody really quickly and do a lot of burst damage, can finish them off really well. Hazard would be good there. Queen, I think not so much. I think a Queen comp kind of plays a little too fast, too together for Freya. And unlike Soj, she doesn't have like an anti-brawl type of thing, like a disruptor, or a lot of like really big consistent damage. I think Freya would suffer a little there. Same thing with like a Malga, although maybe, I don't know, like kind of the same thing with like these guys up here, like super brawly characters that aren't like super slow. I don't think Freya is going to work well with. Now, Reinhardt, I think, you know, Rein comps are much slower. You can like take the high ground and contest that where he can't. I think that's going to be really nice. Hog, Sigma, you know, pokier stuff. Ball comps, you know, they kind of work like that. If you're playing a slower dive with like an Ana Brig instead of having like an Ashe or a Soj, you could play a Freya. I think that would be good. And then like Czar, I don't think Freya is aggressive enough to warrant getting bubbles from a Zarya comp, so I don't think she'd be like quite up to snuff when you're trying to slot her into one of those comps. Damage wise, now I talked about it, a lot of your DPS duo is going to be trying to finish off the kills that you can't get. So really good synergy there. Echo, I think Echo would be great. Echo's kind of lurking, and then like she can instantly put people into beam range, and I think that's really important. Echo doesn't even have to burn stickies in order to kill somebody. That can be really good. Genji, of course, can get a dash reset in there and then dash out. That's also really good. Obviously, something like a Tracer or a Sombra, somebody that goes really deep, can catch those. Other things that you can kind of think about as damage over time things, like Dynamite, or even Sojourn, specifically like the adhesive siphon. If you stick somebody with an adhesive siphon and a bullet or an arrow, they blow up, right? There's actually nothing they can do about it at that point unless they get cleansed. That could be like a really interesting idea where if you're not trying to play with a hyper flanker, you can find some synergy with some of your backliners as well. I'm trying to think of other characters that, like, you know, Freya wouldn't particularly care about, because remember, like, she doesn't need that much synergy, right? She's very, like, on her own. So, you know, she doesn't need, like, a Cassidy to protect her, right? Cass would be for somebody else. She doesn't really need that long range with the Hanzo, although Hanzo does provide that, like, one-shot kill threat, but I feel like that might be a little too much. Same thing with, like, Widow. Maybe, like, on a sniper map or something, you can play Freya with one of these, and then you have, like, the one-shot potential, but then you have, like, the flanking, like, what's it called? The more flanking one shot or like sniper-esque potential that can be good. Characters you should probably not play with, you know, if you're playing a Sim or a Mei, like a really, or a Reaper, you know, like a brawl comp, Freya's not going to slot into that very well. I think it's probably not going to go incredible if you try to do that. And then like other characters that kind of do Freya's job, you know, I think Soj, you're not going to go wrong with having a Soj on your team with a Freya. I'm not going to say that, but like a soldier is probably a little too much, you know, not really necessary. Junkrat, I mean, Junkrat doesn't really synergize with anybody particularly well. You know, Bastion, I think, is a little slow. And, like, maybe there's some merit there where, like, you play the slower character and then Freya picks up the flanking potential while Bastion is, like, not ready to go. Bastion just sucks. There's really nothing there to it. Now, supports here. Supports, at least with synergies, right? Like who you want to play with. I think obviously like an Ana, a Brig, a Juno, a Kiri, somebody who can either go with her or support her from afar. I suppose Lifeweaver can be in that category too, just because. That's always going to be good. A Zenyatta Orb could be nice. But I think particularly when you're playing against a Freya, you need to have burst, burst healing, whatever. Ana, Bap, even Braid to an extent. Juno can help. Kiri, obviously, Lifeweaver, because you can save people, right? The other characters like Moira or Mercy or really Ilyari or Zen, they're not going to be able to like save you from a Freya. So if you're fighting a Freya, you want to have like a burst option just in case. But if you're playing with a Freya, you need to have something that can help her. Now, Mercy can keep up with her decently well. I think that's going to be a new like combo. I would say that Mercy Freya is probably pretty good. Even like a Lucio to get her around, I think could be really interesting, because now Lucio can speed her around and heal her, and Freya doesn't have to use her movement so much for survivability. She can use it for her damage. I think we should be really looking out for that combination. I think that could be like a really, really good way to get around Freya's like big weakness there. But that's if you're playing faster, if you're playing with a Lucio, like that's going to be tough, right? Trying to find the value of Freya in a faster comp, you definitely could do it. And I don't know how viable it is. Maybe you do want to have Freya in like an Ana Lucio comp or something a little more fragile and you just kind of go. I don't know. But yeah, I would say like probably avoid like Moira or something. Ilyari could be fine if you're playing slower. But in general, I think the characters that can heal Freya from afar or play with her in particular, I think Kiriko, is really good with the Freya. I think, again, like Lucio could be really good with the Freya as well. Now, I already talked about it a little bit with supports about like what is going to be good against Freya. I think that like in damage, Widow's going to be really good into Freya because of just like the hit scan, Sure, Freya does have the projectile and she can kind of fight back, but she can't one-shot Widow, and Widow can one-shot her. So even if she does, they don't trade, right? Widow gets to win that fight. You have to be careful with that. Tracer cannot be one-shot by Freya, and with the same thing with the Flyers, she can keep up with her and mark her a lot, so be on the lookout for Tracer. Sombra, to an extent, I don't think Freya is the most, the best person to stop a Sombra hack, although she's probably competent at it, so just be aware of it. I would say that you're probably pretty good against turret characters. You can keep out of the range of like the close range characters. They shouldn't be able to do anything to you. You're gonna have a really good matchup into like Pharahs and stuff. Maybe Echo will give you a little bit more trouble, but Pharah in particular you should be able to get. I think that even though you are a flyer, Genji probably has a decent matchup into you. It's probably okay for him. So just give him like the time of day. Obviously you are 225, so you have to be careful. Any hit scan is going to give you some trouble as well, so Cass and Ashe. But I think Widow is going to be your biggest op in that regard, so be on the lookout for that. In terms of tanks, I think D.Va is going to eat you alive. She can keep up with you, she can mark you, she can eat everything that you do, she can eat. So be wary of that. Doomfist and Hazard can probably put a lot of really good pressure on you. Unlike something like Winston, who I think is going to be a little too slow. He's not going to be going on you all the time. Maybe if the time is right, but his jump is on he's got to wait to get to the next place. Unlike a Hazard or Doom, who I think can more effectively check you and keep doing more stuff. Wrecking Ball can keep up with you, even though you are flying. He can still make your life a living hell. Probably good value to get him away from the front line, but that is nice. You kind of eat Zarya alive. You are a sniper, although it is easier for her to get charge off of you, so be on the lookout for that. Basically, any of the tanks that have no damage mitigation, like Mauga and Queen, they're just, and Roadhog, they're big hunks of meat, you're going to do really, really well into. Sigma's going to be able to stop you decently well. You have to find a way to get around his shield, probably force you to use some abilities that you don't want to get your value out of. That's good for him. I think he probably wins that trade, and he's not going to be so scared of you. And then Ram, whatever, there's a couple characters that I think are probably they're okay, right? Ori's got a big head, but she's got enough mitigation that I think she can manage you, although she will take more damage than she would probably like. She's not as bad as something like a Roadhog or a Mauga. So yeah, that's what I think about playing with synergies, how are you going to play with the other characters? I forgot about one particular one Ilyari, Sun with the shot that she has, it's just like instant. I think Ilyari Captive Sun with like take aim with Freya is actually a really, really good combo. So that, I don't know like how, if like, I think it's good once it like happens. I don't know if that's something like a strat you should be running all the time, but just like Ilyari going for a deeper Sun, one that she wouldn't necessarily be able to get value off of, Freya can come in from just some random angle and like guarantee the Sun to go off. That is really good. I think that one is really, really nice. But yeah, that is it. That's what I've got for synergies and stuff. Moving on here to my final conclusion. So overall, concluding thoughts. One, please take a look at that headshot stuff. I really do mean it. Secondly, she's great. I think she's really fun. You know, people asked for, you know, less kit bloat. I always thought that was like an over exaggeration of things, but you got it. This character shoots and she moves, and she's got an ult, which all characters have. That's about it, but she does a lot. There's a lot of decisions you have to make. There's a lot of uptime, which is a really like new thing that they've been trying to focus on, is characters with uptime, right? Uptime is fun. Being able to shoot your buttons all the time is fun. It doesn't counteract the Overwatch like every decision matters type deal, because they have a lot of interesting dynamics with the movement and the damage and all of that like combined together. She's great. I think only time will tell if she's good or not. To be honest with you, I can't figure it out. I think she has the potential to be really good, and especially in organized play, I think she could be like really like just like an ult bot basically. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays now, because again, like, she might not be performing perfectly well in ranked, and then they buff her, and then she starts freaking flying in organized play, you know, or just completely going off the rails. So we'll have to see, but overall, very fun. I like her a lot. Probably going to be one of my new DPS staples, because, you know, the Overwatch 2 DPS are just kind of my favorite in the game, I can't lie. And Echo, who, let's be real, is basically an Overwatch 2 DPS anyways. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please have a good day, and like and subscribe before you go. Leave a comment down below. What are you thinking of Freya? Do you like her? Do you not like her? What's some things that you've noticed about her that I maybe didn't bring up here? I would love to hear it. I stream live, twitch.tv/LaneHemingway, and here on YouTube, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. That is when you can catch me live, ask me questions. I've been keeping YouTube chat up more, so if you're there, I will talk to you if I don't forget. But don't worry, join my Discord down below. All the links you need are in the description, but everything there, you know, in my Discord is when I ask you guys more questions, interact with you more. I'm going to be playing Resident Evil, the original HD version, the remake on GameCube, on stream starting on Tuesday. So tune in for that. And if you want to, you know, have say on my next game I play on stream, join my Discord. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please have a good day.